What did I do with it? Here it is. Okay. So, I have some interviews. You guys know who Viva Frei is? You guys love Viva. You're like you're like me. You love Viva Frei. Viva's cool. I've actually, it's been fun watching Viva Frei get red pilled. He started as kind of just a regular Canadian dude. He was like a lawyer. He'd go over lawsuits and shit. And he had a family blog type thing. He'd go on fishing trips and vacations and stuff. And then he became like kind of a base red pilled Canadian guy, like especially over COVID. Like that, like he actually moved out of Canada, but he went back to Ottawa to go film this protest. And he was live streaming, apparently. He did it for 4 or 5 hours today. And he interviewed some of the people that were at the protest. And Viva's very chill. He's very unassuming. He seems like a very easy person to talk to. So he can lull people into a false sense of security and kind of have a calm conversation, even with some of the nutty ones, Trumping says, I want my nephew to be homeschooled, but my sister is too lazy, so I'll end up having to do it myself. You might have to, buddy. Prophet says, why is that man shielding his children from Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon? Because he thinks Roger Waters is a dick, says Trembling. Oh, he saw what happened. He saw that picture. Roger Waters doing The Wall. Well, guess what, buddy? Context doesn't matter, okay? Context doesn't matter. So let's check it out. I know of 2 of them. I don't know if there's any more that I can maybe drudge up. I haven't watched this one. I watched another one. The next one we're gonna watch, I ended up watching it because there's this guy also there that his name is Billboard Chris, and he's this bald dude who wears just kind of business casual attire. Puts like a sandwich board. He wears that around, kind of a la John McClane and Die Hard 3, and he has like a bunch of facts about like transitioning, trans kids, suicide rates, etc. And people fucking hate him. The trans people, they hate this dude. Anywhere he shows up, inevitably somebody will go and try to sucker punch him. Wild shit. Trump says, not because of that, just for Waters making everything be about him with The Wall and the final cut. Oh, no, I know. I was just joking. Because we had made the joke about telling Dan to keep his fucking mouth shut about context because nobody cares. Nobody cares, Fed. You're not fooling us. All right, let's see what this lady's got to say.
That's how they are. You know what I mean? We're just showing up to make some noise, drown out, whatever they want to push.
Now, if I were to hypothesize that adults generally don't care what other adults do, and this would be more a question of what should be tolerated in terms of...
And this is the big thing. Most adults do not care about other adults. I think everybody's going to have an opinion on it, but we kept this shit at bay because it was like it was only about adults. Now these people want to use state authority and pressure to force it on your fucking kids. To force it on them. This is so fucked. When you really start peeling back the layers and just get down to brass tacks principle, it is entirely fucked. They cry out while they lash at you. Okay? They do. This is the oppressed minority. Listen, if you have the fucking strength of the state and the school board on your side, even proposing any of this shit, you're not the victim. You are not the victim. You are the oppressor. Whoa now.
What is put on the children or authorized for children? If we said we all agree that adults can do whatever they want, but the kids need to be protected, would you generally be okay with that?
Yeah, I think that children should be protected. I mean, if you can't tell, I'm repping my, got the pronoun pins and everything, colored hair, nose ring pronouns. I'm not breaking any stereotypes. But at the end of the day...
Oh my God. She put that, she just showed that whole show, to let him know that she's cool. She's cool with kids and protecting kids. She's cool with that. She's totally cool. Yeah, this is somebody that I would be like, get away. Get the fuck out of here. No, you cannot babysit my son. You fucking weirdo. Because they're going to go up and this is such a big part of their lifestyle and their identity that they make every single fucking thing about it. Every time. You can't go get a sandwich with this lady without there being a fucking issue. And you know that. I don't know, guys. I think I might have just experienced a microaggression. Yeah, when I told that Subway sandwich artisan to hold the tomatoes, he laughed at me. Probably because I'm a black queer woman. Prophet says, you've always heard that old story about how half of the founding fathers wanted to enshrine Drag Queen Story Hour into the Constitution, but they knew half of the country wasn't ready for it. This is true. This is as the story goes. Gabraham Lincoln, you remember him? America's first gay president, Gabraham Lincoln, remember him? You know, I have a whole dossier about gay Abraham Lincoln. Maybe we'll get into it tonight.
Dang, I've been, I guess, shitty at being a girl since I was 8. You know what I mean? I have no interest in, I have no interest in changing who I am to please the opinions of somebody who shows up with prefabricated, pre-bought signs. You know what I mean?
If I may,
See, this is not original. Listen, if you had taken the time to make these things yourself, you know, I only really like support people that are kind of like more crafty. It just seems like they mean it more. Trebling says the southern colonies never would have helped fight the British if they knew we wanted to outfag the Limeys. All references available at louderwithcrowder.com.
Original thought on the other side.
So I'll ask you this: if someone said, I mean, do I ask gender orientation, or am I allowed not to ask that?
You ask whatever you want. If you call me a girl, you're wrong, and that's okay.
Okay.
It's not
Now,
my job to teach
if someone says now,
Well, of course, she doesn't want to correct him. Think of the emotional labor. It's exhausting. Hagbert says, what if I use my Cricut machine to make my sign? I think your cry cut machine. I think you're good. I think that's what you should do. And then you could scrawl something like, you know, man and woman and then homeschool on a sign. You just got to write that on there and she's going to love you. She's going to love you, dude.
as a kid, let's say you're a confused 8-year-old, or you're an 8-year-old who doesn't feel good in their body.
I was an 8-year-old who was a little bit kind of guyish, kind of girlish, kind of guyish. Never fit comfortably in with girls. Never was comfortable in that role. And
this is the erasure of lesbian tomboys. That's really what's going on. It's the same thing with trans women. It's just like the erasing of, like, are you pretty, you know, you're probably just gay. You ever think of that? You know? But it's not cool to be gay anymore. It's not enough. Is that what's fucking cool? Is that what's fly? Is that what's hip right now? Being gay? I don't think so. I don't think so, buddy. You gotta be trans now. You gotta be a trans.
it was definitely, given a hard time for it. You know what I mean? It was never, whenever people wanted to hurt my feelings, they would call me it or she or they, or you know what I mean? And it's funny because now that I claim those as my own, all of a sudden it's like, no, you're a girl now. You're a girl because it's convenient to me. I just want to hurt your feelings.
No,
like,
but
I mean, she's not that ugly. That's a little crazy. I don't know if she's being hyperbolic. She's talking about her cousins or something. People out in the wild saying that? I don't know. Or, I have a feeling she probably went through a very awkward fashion phase. A very awkward fashion phase and probably dressed like a goth idiot.
Worship the female penis.
She probably dressed like a goth idiot and people made fun of her. We've all been there. We've all been through the fucking weird clothing phase.
I was thinking about you.
Jeffrey Marsh, she's there too. Trembling says, I find the actual women that do this kind of shit much weirder than the dudes that do it. Less dangerous, but definitely more damaged mentally. Yeah, well, they're all damaged mentally, but the guys that you come out and see that like are tooth and nail, like fight about trans women, it's like a 50-50 split between half of them are just have like a kink for trans people and they need to rationalize it and they need to be okay with their own sexuality. So they go hard in the paint for it. And the other ones are debate bros. Like it's contrarianism in a weird way. Like that's, the legacy of the whole blood sports and all that stuff. It's not like these people just like to argue about shit. And this is one of the toughest nuts to crack.
You're dressing up in lingerie before your mirror at home, tucking your dick between your legs, imagining you have a vagina.
So it's kind of like it's just kind of like challenge to them. It's not like sincere, but they push it. They're pushing it hard. these degenerates like to support other forms of degeneracy. Maybe it takes the spotlight off of them. I don't know. Maybe they just want to open that door for themselves and everybody else, because if everybody's doing it, then I'm okay. Then I'm normal too. Then I'm a special girl.
Let's just say I'm a special girl.
What are you, retarded?
Hagrid says, what if you're hearing voices and punching yourself? Is that a clear sign to transition? Yes, actually, that's Hagrid's referencing Elliot Page, formerly Ellen Page. She gave an interview, I think, to the LA Times, and had basically just said, like, I had a complete psychotic break. Her lesbian girlfriend, the DJ got her into the lifestyle. Actually, a lot of times what you find is that a lot of this stuff, a lot of what puts this idea in people's heads is pornography. Is that a big surprise? I don't know if that's a big surprise. But that is what happens. It's pornography, the lifestyle, being just kind of around people that this is like their major preoccupation in life, is this kind of stuff, talking about this kind of stuff, dealing with it. And then they learn to identify with it because they're like, well, don't you care? Don't you care? They kind of internalize it too much. And it seems like people that already have traumas and kinks, they're already, they're fucked. Actually, you know what we're going to do real quick? We're going to come right back to this interview just because we're talking about this real quick. Hold on. I want to share this with you guys. Now, you know the Wachowskis, right? So recently, this isn't Lana. This is the other one. If you guys don't know, the Wachowski brothers were way into like weird, kinky BDSM sex culture. There was actually a big expose back, and it's retroactively, I think, been disappeared, but it was by Entertainment Weekly. They did this big expose about their kink lifestyle, their secret lifestyle. And it kind of looked like, people, it was like provocative and weird. And I remember reading about it as a kid. But this not Lana, this is the other one. Let's call her Tobiscus. I don't know. They're going to talk about when was the first time they saw a trans person. When did they notice it was a thing or a possibility or an option? Traveling says, guy to girl trannies, I think, is the logical end to gay degeneracy, but women that want to become men is weirder to me. But there always are bull dykes, and they're halfway there. Well, yeah, that's what it was before, just a couple years ago. Not even that long ago. You just had bull dykes. Lesbian tomboys.
To be honest, like for me, the
I gotta crank this. I gotta crank it.
People that I saw, the first images that really struck a chord with me were, trans women and pornography, and there was something that unlocked in my brain that I saw these wonderful, fearless performers. Becoming these
Oh my God. So he was just enraptured by the beauty of the pornography. These fearless performers. They're actresses, guys. So yeah, a sex weirdo, a sex pest, if you will. No, nothing wrong with being it. You can be a sex pest if you want. But I guess be careful what you're doing out there, adults.
becoming desirable, and in my head, I could take the leap where I felt like, well, if I could be desirable, then maybe I could be loved. And for me,
what a weird thing. So, like, because it looked like they were becoming desirable, like the fucking gay for pay guy was gonna fuck this tranny in the ass, and I looked at that and I said, interesting. This person looks like they're being loved. They're being loved. They're being accepted for who they are by this guy with his giant hog. Maybe if I became trans, I could also be loved. See, it also points to just other clear psychological problems that this person had before any of this even started. Probably feelings of abandonment, and maybe even playing second fiddle to Lana, who seems like a real bitch. Guess who wasn't part of Matrix Resurrected? This guy.
That's like one of the keys that trans people have to like struggle through. You know, will somebody love me? And so yeah, that's my answer, Nick Adams.
That's an excellent answer, Lily Wachowski.
Lily Wachowski, that's right. I mean, like, yeah, I guess if that's what you want to be like, yeah, dude, it's because I'm a coomer. That's how I knew about it. Take me seriously. Trembling says you can probably find all their weird degeneracy in the Matrix movies. It's probably all a big metaphor for this shit. That's what they claim kind of now. I think at the time it was a metaphor for definitely having identity issues. Obviously lots of leather shit in there, lots of kink culture stuff. That's all over that movie, in the costuming and in the incidental stuff in the background. It's all over that movie. They went too hard in the paint with it when they did Reloaded. When they did Matrix Reloaded, they just were too overt about that stuff. That's why it felt so weird. I remember being in the theater watching Matrix Reloaded and the fucking like the rave scene happens, and it's like such a bizarre, clearly like fetishistic, like erotic event, and then it's clearly intentionally because it's intercut with Neo and Trinity having the weirdest, most awkward looking sex ever. And yeah, even back then as a kid, how old was I when that came out? Like 16 or 17. Not a judgmental bone in my body. And I was still like, that's kind of fucking weird. It's kind of weird. Trembling says it's funny that they both had to be trannies, just like one of them had to wear a leather jacket in high school when the other did. Yeah, because Lily transitioned like a few years later. And and you put that together with like their kind of what they were talking about with like wanting to be loved, wanting to be accepted, to be cared about. You know, Lana took up all the fucking spotlight. She sucked up all the energy in the room, all the air in the room. She sucked it up for herself. And poor Lily, I think it was Larry. So it used to be Larry. I don't know. Poor Lily was standing there with his dick in his hand. And he said, gross, I got to get rid of this thing. All right, let's go back.
I guess the question is, as an adult, how do people make an issue with you? People call you she because you look feminine.
Because I got tits. Like, it's, you know what I mean? I'm not, you know what I mean? I understand what I look like. But at my core, there are people who get it and there are people who don't.
Have you taken medication to stop the otherwise normal development of a young girl?
No, I haven't taken any medications.
If one were to say that
I'm fine with this, you know, it's what it is.
Now, would you?
I'm big and I'm beautiful. Prophet says, what do you mean, Shaun? When I think of the Matrix, I think of close-ups of sweaty, racially ambiguous feet.
Understand if someone says, I don't think...
You know, hey, at least Neo and Trinity are white. You know, that's the... and it never... You know what? Fuck it. I'm not even going to go there right now.
Child should be administered any of those types of medications.
So the thing is that puberty blockers have been given to kids since the 80s for precocious puberty.
Understood.
A lot of people, you know, have precocious...
I love this fucking argument. They give them puberty blockers for a completely valid medical reason, like precocious puberty, when it starts way too early. And then and then before their body starts developing in other ways, they have to take it off. They have to take them off of it. And it's so, oh my God. Imagine saying this out loud in current year.
Precocious puberty and have been taking these medications for the exact purpose of stopping puberty from
Precocious puberty, for everybody who doesn't know, is an early onset early period for a girl.
Or for boys, you know, just going through puberty too quickly or too...
You know, I probably had precocious puberty. I had like a fucking beard by the time I was 14. That's pretty precocious.
Soon. So we already know about the safety of puberty blockers. We've been using them on people who aren't trans for a long time. I think that a lot of people just care about this because Tucker Carlson told them to. You know what I mean?
See, exactly. See, this is always their talking point. It can't be from legitimate concern. It can't be from going to these fucking parent-teacher conferences or these school board meetings. It can't be from that. Why would anybody care about any of these fucking topics? Why would anybody care? And these are the people that are in there. They're teaching your kids. They're fucking hanging out with your kids. And this person's like kind of unassuming, right? Seems like nice. If you didn't get into this topic with them, you'd probably have a very pleasant Totally normal, fine conversation. Probably talk about Firefly or some dumb nerd shit. Okay? Oh man, I really wish you got a second season too. But it's the banality of evil. It's just because everything is centered around their own experience. They only experience the world. It's like a form of solipsism. Like they only see the world through their own lens. They actually don't have real empathy. They don't know how to kind of take on the experience of somebody else. Everything's just a form of projection. They're like, well, I felt this way. Even though most of those things are conclusions that you come to in hindsight, which is part of the process of growing up. They would like to steal that from your kids. Steal it from everybody. It's fucking insane. Hagrid says, so do transitioning children have to be under the care of an endocrinologist? We all know the answer.
But now,
board.
we could agree that there's also a distinction between medically.
Not only do they not have to do that, now it's becoming more and more easy. It's easier and easier. The access to these things, like the gatekeepers, are not doing a very good job holding that gate closed at all. It's fucking wide open, dude. It's a money-making venture for a lot of these people. They're clinics now. They're gender-affirming clinics where you go see a fucking social worker or former social worker that's gone into a private business, a private practice, and you go talk to a kid for a couple hours, and then you say, yes, I think we should start the process of transitioning. Clearly, they're very serious. Traveling says it's like nature makes poisonous things bright-colored and funny-smelling or something.
Administering medications to prevent
have been given
damage.
to children for a long time. You know what I mean?
Typically, precocious period is to prevent early onset, but allow the normal development and not to interfere with the normal development. So do you understand? You appreciate a difference in the two administration of the drugs?
Definitely. But we've already established that they're not unsafe to give to kids. And if the other option is that,
As if every use case, any length of time that they were to be on these puberty blockers, wouldn't be different than what they're talking about. It doesn't prove anything. What do you
that the kid is going to go through puberty that causes them to have incredible distress with their body and incredible, sense of shame with how they've developed. We can avoid that. You know what I mean? We have the technology. We've done it. We've progressed as a species to be able to do that sort of thing.
Like, we have the technology. Now, I would implore you guys, go watch Prophet's History of Cutting Off Your Dick series. Pretty gruesome. We have the technology. Pretty gruesome shit. That's not technology. That's just barbarism, okay? You know where this lady's from?
He's nothing but a ghoul and a goblin who works at the basement.
She definitely works at the basement.
You recognize that it does, in fact, cause some form of, call it harm or not, it causes irreversible alterations to the body.
It's not all reversible. It's not all unreversible. There are some aspects of it that are unreversible.
Like fertility, fully developed genitalia.
I mean, this is actually, because it's come out recently, and this is one of the reasons why the UK just pretty much banned puberty blockers, unless you're part of a clinical trial or something, which is bad enough. Is because there are tons of adverse reactions. They've spent the past 5, 6, 10 years. Last time we talked about this, we watched videos from like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, local news reports. 6, 7-year-olds being put on these things, given hormones, being put on blockers. Well, now it's 5 or 6 years later. These people are all fucked up. And they're like, oh, shit. Whoopsie. I did a goof. The doctors are saying, oh, shit. Oh, fuck. Who could have seen this coming? Trelling says, oh, it's like someone told her stuff to say and she has no actual knowledge of what she's talking about. It wasn't Tucker who told her so. It's all fine and accurate. Yeah, she's just listening to her own propaganda that's just as shallow, just as useless for having a real conversation, but they walk around like with the confidence of professors. Look at Professor Chud McFlurry here from the basement.
Yeah, bone density.
Bone density is one of the only things that is unreversible, but the difference is actually negligible. There are other factors.
She's like, bone density is not that big of a deal. I like birds. Birds have hollow bones. What's so bad about bone density? A little less of it. You'd be more like a bird, float. You'll be floating on air.
that could cause you to have lower bone density, like
Well,
lack
but-
of vitamin C.
True, but those are medical issues that cause you to have a problem, not cosmetic alterations.
I don't think that the level of, how do I put this? I don't think that it's justifies the level of outrage that we see at it. Medications that have been given to kids.
But they're just like, yeah, kids get hurt. In large numbers, kids that go through this process end up hurt, end up defective, end up needing treatment for what these drugs cause for the rest of their life. I don't think it's that big of a deal. You know, really, the outrage is a little outsized, don't you know?
Again, for years, for decades, suddenly are this huge culture war issue. I just don't buy it.
So that is to say, then you would oppose a ban on administering puberty blockers, hormone replacement therapy, top surgeries, bottom surgeries to children.
My inclination is towards human freedom. Like, that's one of my core axioms. I think.
Well, of course, it's for the freedom. It's for human freedom, everybody. Traveling says this thing is Simon Phoenix if he actually bought into the future he woke up in. Good call. Good call. Be cutting off your kids' dicks.
I think that anything that bans somebody's freedom to do with their own body what they choose, yeah, I'm against that.
But you realize the obvious reductio of that is if a
It's like, hey, can a 12-year-old date a 35-year-old? You be cool with that? Would be cool. I mean, what if they chose? What if it was their choice to enter into a consensual sexual relationship with a 35-year-old? Would that be cool? I mean, do you think, why wouldn't you let them do that? Oh, do you think there'll be long-term psychological harm? Perhaps, maybe? Oh, man. Fucking wild.
child chooses to have sex, that would be a problem in that it's illegal.
The reason that that's a problem is because children are too young to have sex.
They're too young to have sex. See, she got there. They're too young to have sex. They're too young to be able to consent to something like this. And this has always been my argument with a lot of this kind of stuff, is that this is really about consent. This has to do with lowering the barrier of what we consider rational consent of something. And the groups of people that push this shit the hardest have lots of weird connections to organizations, activist groups. They're all filled with people that are kind of involved in MAP communities, and they're involved in social activism for pedophiles. A lot of them have arrest records concerning child abuse. You find out that happens all the time. And those are the people that are the leaders of these conversations. The types of people that will brazenly say, like, well, if it's illegal, I'll send HRT through the mail. Yeah, we have secret discords where we talk to fucking 15-year-olds about being trans. Yeah, no, that's fucking weird, dude. Like, if somebody wanted to, like, say, what if it was like it was like an AOL chat or whatever, and some fucking grown adult wanted just to talk to a teenager just about sex in general. We would think it's fucking creepy and weird. But for some reason, like, it's like, well, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, what are you talking about? Like, this is like Keffel's person, Jesse Gender, Jeffrey Marsh saying, like, I will be your family. I will be your new family. And nobody's supposed to say that's not weird. Because that's another aspect of this, is that it destroys you being able to identify red flags. Danger, danger, danger. It's teaching children to ignore the telltale signs of predators. It's so infuriating. Trelving says, oh, so she's a libertarian. That tracks. I don't think she's she's not a libertarian. I mean, I think, most libertarians are not okay with this shit. And they basically bring up the consent argument. They bring up all those things. They also bring up the fact that if you're doing this in a community, you're causing harm beyond yourself, etc. But there's definitely the hardcore libertarians, like the capital L libertarians, not the Ron Paul, like, kind of economic libertarians. It's, and also social stuff too. But they are, because they don't believe in borders. They don't believe in any of that kind of stuff. And what I found out a year ago or so is that tons of these people that are all connected to like that old NAMBLA organization, they're all libertarians. Some of the people that are still connected to that zine or whatever the fuck it is at this point in history, they're all libertarians. They all talk about their libertarian values. They're on Twitter as we speak. I think I have a dossier somewhere where I have all of their shit saved because I didn't want to follow any of them because I don't even want that stink on me in any capacity. Because like, how else would I have found them if I wasn't like just researching the topic? But yeah, that's something I've always had an issue with, even back when I was more inclined to be libertarian minded, which, in some ways I still am, but some ways definitely not. Trumlink says the left has and always will be ran by Mr. Byrne-esque pedos. Accurate.
But do you appreciate there's a very serious logical problem in that they're too young to consent to sex, but not too young to consent to alteration of their bodies for a permanent sense?
What if a child has something, say there's something wrong with their limb, and their limb has to be removed? Do we just let them die?
Well, the difference, the difference there would be
it's going to cause them to die at the end of the day. The thing.
And this is always the argument they pivot to, like, well, they're going to die. You wouldn't want your kid to commit suicide, would you? They're going to die. If we don't do this, if we don't fucking cut this kid's dick off, we don't cut this young girl's breasts off, they're going to die. That's the context that they give people. Like parents that are all freaked out and have no idea what the fuck to do. That's what they say to people. It's like so fucking ludicrous.
I'm trying to compare this to is, trans kid and the suicide rate. Say they have something wrong. An 8-year-old has a problem with their foot. It's gone gangrenous. Do you just leave it because they can't consent?
I would say that the distinction there would be you treat physical ailments with physical solutions, and you do not treat mental issues with physical solutions.
Do you not think, though, that going through puberty, that's not, congruent with what your sense of self is?
Yeah, and he's exactly. Thank you for confirming what he said. It's a mental issue. It is not a physical issue. It's an issue of the mind.
Do you not think that that's physical? You know what I mean? Like
I think going through puberty.
Like if you suddenly started growing like tits or something, do you not think that would be
I would say,
a physical issue that
as
you
an
want
adult,
to deal with?
as an adult, I'd say that would be my decision as an adult, and I don't think anybody really cares about what consenting adults do here.
You say that, but I mean, you look at some of the bills in the U.S. They're trying to make it so that nobody could access anything. I think that a lot of these people.
No, actually, I'm not sure if there's actually any state. Maybe there might be one that has across the board tried to stop any of these types of procedures. The only ones I've seen at all, and maybe I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you know. I'm pretty sure they're all just have to do with children, not adults. I don't think you can really do that with adults. You can't.
People know what the quiet part of what they're saying is. You know what I mean? I'm not willing to offer that much naivety to this crowd.
I happen to be living in the States right now, and I know that Canadians' understanding of the American laws are wildly inaccurate. But in fact, in Florida, the law is that for adults, it would require a medical diagnosis from an actual doctor and not like, online or nurses or non-medical practitioners diagnosing. And it would be a ban on kids.
Yeah, they brought back standards. They brought back a standard. You can't just go to these fucking ex-social workers that run a fucking scam, charge you $10,000 so they'll write you a letter.
Do you mind me asking, why is this important to you?
For me, it's strictly the question of kids. That's it. A kid is not old enough to consent to sex. They're not old enough to consent to modifying their body any more than they can consent to a tattoo.
Like, for instance, getting like a root canal.
But you're talking about you're talking. There's a difference.
What a fucking retard! What an idiot! Fucking root canal. Same thing. Totally same thing. Same thing.
Between medically necessary and
because she got on that point. And that's just where she's gonna die. That's the hill she's about to die on.
Cosmetic.
But I think that's where our issue is that we disagree on what's medically necessary. I don't want kids to kill themselves. You know what I mean? At the end of the day.
Yes, but I think suicide would be what we call what do we call it? There's a an intervening cause in law. I forget what the actus novus. Suicide is not the logical, necessary medical conclusion from being denied HRT in the same way that, gangrene will result in blood infection. So one is a decision. The other one is a biological.
See, that's why I like Viva, because he's calm and he's rational and he's not a dick. He's not aggressive. He's Canadian, and he'll just walk you through it. He's doing this girl a kindness. Like, this is charity work for him. He should be able to start his own nonprofit now. Hagbard says these conflations are incredible. I agree. Trembling says, quote unquote, the quiet part of what they're saying, aka what I want to say that they're saying so I can be a victim. Yes, because there are perpetual victims.
Results. And the issue would be that children lack the maturity to consent to certain things because they lack the maturity, and therefore,
if they go through the process of going through the freaking Lupron or whatever it is called, if they go through that process and decided, hey, I'm 17, I haven't gone through puberty yet, I've been on these goddamn blockers since I was 11.
Yeah, while your body's still growing. Obviously, that's not going to do anything. No harm, no foul, right? She's saying be on puberty blockers for 6 years. 6 years. And they try to make the argument that everything is completely reversible and you'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
You know what? I changed my mind. You just stop taking Lupron and whatever it is that you were assigned at birth. You know what I mean?
If it turns out that they have in fact caused meaningful irreparable damage, stunted genital growth, inability to climax, infertility, would you then be prepared to rethink the issue as relates to kids and kids alone?
If it caused all of these different things, I'm not 100% sure that it does.
No,
I'm not.
How can you be at a fucking protest about these issues and not be somewhat prepared? Jesus Christ. It happens all the time. And it's happening more and more because kids are, now we know, like I said, it's been like 5 or 6 years since some of these people have started down these paths. Obviously, the most famous example would be Jazz Jennings. Jazz Jennings is a fucking eunuch who can feel nothing down there other than just the infection.
We have to go with the hypothetical if it does.
I'm not sure that I'm willing to engage with that hypothetical because it seems like we have data, we have a reality, we have an objective world that we live in. I don't know why we need to resort to hypotheticals like this.
Hypotheticals, it's not a hypothetical. You don't need to and also hypotheticals are fine when you're having a discussion about where's your line? What's the standard here? Hagrid says it's because she has been sold a bad bill of goods and she believes it's because it fits with what she wants to be true. I totally agree. You're right. It's still infuriating. Drumming says because these people don't believe what the effects of puberty blockers are. Anything that's negative is just right-wing propaganda. Yes, that's what is the big problem of this being this partisan issue. And sometimes I think, politicians get in the way and politicize this stuff too much because it's such basic shit. It should be such common sense. And sometimes that kind of gets lost in the sauce a little bit because of all the other things that come along with this crap. And and then when you have two people that are just looking at the world in such diametrically opposed ways, I don't know how you can even convince each other of anything. I don't know if that's even possible right now for most people. Well, actually, I take that back. Not for most people. For people that are a little bit plugged in, maybe a little too online, like myself.
Hypothetically, I were to suggest it's not a hypothetical and it's a matter of fact. Would you then, I think you would reconsider.
Irreversible genital change.
Stunted genital growth, where it's called micropenis in the case of adults. Infertility in the case of
micropenises are because of this.
Because of
never existed before.
How could this is so crazy. It blows her mind, the idea that if you stop puberty from occurring while your body is still growing, that can have negative effects to the way certain body parts that require the hormones that are released during puberty to grow normally. And she's like, I don't know about that. That sounds pretty crazy.
If you ask my wife, she might have a different answer to that.
I've been hearing about these sorts of issues for a long time, well before this became the culture war du jour.
I think we've made progress. I'm gonna.
Yeah, she saw Seed of Chucky. She saw Seed of Chucky, and it really just changed things for her. A double bill of Ed Wood and Seed of Chucky. Traveling says they won't believe the sky is blue if someone on their side says it isn't, or says they heard Tucker or DeSantis said it. That's true. Too entrenched.
Above all else, thank you for talking with me. You might take some flack later on, but
gets all awkward when they're like, "Oh, you're one of those they them." It's like, I mean, shit.
I don't care about that. You seem like a mature adult that knows what you are doing with your body. Doesn't bother me whatsoever. The issue, and I think for most, if not all, is the kids and not the adults. Despite some saying, okay, you're weirdos, but like I say, assholes are going to be assholes regardless of what the issue is.
I think it's also a little bit odd to be spending as much time as some of these people are fixating on the idea of kids' genitals. Like it's
This is also one of the new talking points. If you watch the debate between Lance from the Surfs with Tim Pool, he went into this I don't know, use this tactic, we'll call it this debate tactic. Where they start saying, why are you obsessed with kids' genitals? Why are you obsessed with other people's genitals? They try to make it seem like you're a pervert. It's incredible. It's fucking incredible. Like the how dishonest and disingenuous that is, because they know that nobody's doing it because they're perverts. Well, some of them might actually think because they're fucking crazy. A lot of these people, not well in the head.
So some might say that that's exactly true of this side.
You heard of the pedocon theory? You know what I mean?
But some might say that the people who are focusing on the kids' genitals are exactly everyone behind.
I think that the argument from everyone on the pro-trans side, the LGBTQ alphabet mafia, the people on this side, I think the argument is leave them alone. If they want to do that, that's between them and their doctor and their parents and their therapist and that sort of thing. I don't know why it needs the input of a bunch of strangers who, let's be honest, a lot of them are pretty hateful. You know what I mean?
Let me, not another hypothetical, but female genital mutilation. Do we allow that?
I'm against female genital mutilation as it happens at birth, routine female gentilation. Also against circumcision. You know what I mean? I think once they get to an age where they're able to decide, hey, you know what I mean? This is what I want to do. This is what I want. You can get circumcised as an adult. You can get all of these things done as an adult. If you want to, that's your choice. Leave that.
Well, I'll just say,
so circumcision, that's inappropriate for a parent to make that decision. They can do that when they're an adult. You know, they can do that when they're an adult, but you know, if your kid wants a mastectomy at 15, it's okay to consent to that. It's okay. Traveling says the easy counter is, why are they so obsessed with telling kids about their genitals and their sex lives? Yeah, which is kind of where Viva went.
Anecdotally, I got circumcised. It was so painful I couldn't walk for a year. Bada bing, bada boom.
Wait, at what age?
It's a joke.
Jesus.
It's an old Jewish joke, people. Thank you very much for talking.
No, thank you for your time.
Enjoy the day.
All right, so there is another one. It's a shorter one. He talks to some other dummy. Let me see if I can find it. And I want to find the lead up to it too. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. Okay. Okay, so we're going to see our boy Chris, Billboard Chris. He's at this event. I don't know if he's Canadian or not. I've seen him at a lot of U.S. Protests and events, but he might be Canadian. I mean, I guess if you're probably Canadians are probably a little bit more invested and activated in this because it's been happening in their country a little bit longer. Like just pushing this weird agenda. Let me see here.
No idea who that person was.
So yeah, because what we just saw was obviously a clip from a live stream. We're gonna go look at the big old live stream, and I think he's about to walk up on this dude and talk to him. Billboard Chris gets into it with some people, and then he interviews a kid.
This guy's saying, we can't hear you with the garments on your face. That's a big flag. How much does that thing cost? Is that guy's hat? Oh, the hat says no hate. Okay. Let's see who else we can have a discussion with here.
There's the biggest bigot here.
Don't tell anybody. So let's see what's going on here.
Viva leaves the compound in Florida to go behind enemy lines.
How you doing? Let's see. No one is going to talk to me on this end.
Oh, actually, there's a lady with a boy there. Actually, the lady with the black burqa.
Yeah.
Her and her mom and her son wants to talk.
Okay, and that's Billboard Chris, so I'm going to go see what's going on there.
Yeah.
Alrighty. The pessimist always brings the umbrella just in case it rains.
Oh, yeah. Look at these fucking losers. You know, if you're going to stand for something, at least stand for it. At least put your face out there.
The optimist brings the umbrella in case it's too sunny. By the way, a little riddle for the chat. When is an umbrella not an umbrella? When it's a parasol. So I'm going to meet Chris, Billboard Chris, for the first time in person right now. How's it going?
She's got a good message there with the boy.
So they're having like fucking drum circles. They have this thing that kindergartners do with the flag. They're doing like, you know, isn't there some, like, the game is called like Parachute or something? Are they doing that? You think they're doing that? All right, Tobiscus. Now it's your time to go into the parachute.
My message is one of true body positivity. My message is that there is no right way to be a boy or a girl. The girl's more masculine, boy's more feminine. Beautiful, no problem. The girl wants to climb trees and dirt, hates wearing dresses. She's a beautiful girl. She's not trans.
Also, another tactic, as you can hear, the drum ceremony, the singing, the chanting, trying to mess up the audio, trying to fuck up an interview.
And we need to get away from this idea that just because children don't conform to sexist, aggressive stereotypes, that they were born in the wrong body. That's a psychologically abusive thing to teach a child. And this whole pronoun business as well. When you use the wrong pronouns for a child, what you're essentially doing every time you do that is you're sending a message that that child was born wrong. That girl should have been a boy or that boy should have been a girl. And these kids are in school now receiving this. They're being reaffirmed thousands of times throughout the school year that they were born wrong. And so now they believe that the only way they'll find true happiness is by getting puberty blocking drugs, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries. That's nonsense. We should be telling our kids they're beautiful just as they are. If they want to do something as an adult to modify their body, that's a different conversation.
So ultimately, this is about education over indoctrination. That's a provincial issue. And Stephen Lecce, the conservative, so-called conservative education minister in Ontario, has overseen the radical expansion of gender ideology in our schools. What's your message to Stephen Lecce, the education minister?
Who wants to bet that this guy was with Rebel Media? Seems like a Rebel Media guy. Because he's very well spoken. He's got his talking points.
And also at the federal level, conservatives who seem to not want to touch this subject with a 10-foot pole.
This is a far-left political ideology that floated around academia for decades, and it's now emerged into the mainstream. And they've been very successful in pushing this because they say this is about helping children to be who they really are. Really? Is cutting off body parts of a child helping them to be their true self? I don't think so. Is stopping the physical development of a child helping them to be who they really are? It's absolute nonsense. This is like a cult that has permeated all of society, and now it's in all of our schools.
And that's the weird thing, because he's right about all these things. He's like, you know, if sometimes people, you know, it's a sliding scale. Sexuality is a spectrum to one degree or another. There are some girls that are more masculine, some boys that are more feminine. And you're actually just stepping in the way. And because this has to be introduced to you for you to even have any type of fucking awareness of this. Like, you could be going through something as a teenager or as a young kid or going through puberty or whatever. You could be going through stuff. You might be confused. Happens to the best of us. But to be given this prescription when you're at your most vulnerable and confused point in your life up to that point is really fucking heinous. It's really heinous. I mean, it's bad enough when the people do it to teenagers, but when you see like the people that do this to like 5, 6, 7-year-olds, my God, makes me feel like Paul Kersey. Those people should be like fucking arrested. Oh, it just blows my mind. Blows my mind. And the attempt to mainstream that stuff is incredible. because it goes against all like notions of common sense. They never look into who these fucking people are. They never look into the parents. When they report on this stuff, they never look into the parents. They never look into them. They never say, who are these people? What is wrong with them? It's not even a question in their head. They're just like, no, these people are just doing what they got to do to save their kid.
And we can't let that remain. Our children need to learn how to read, write, do arithmetic. They don't need to be learning about sexual orientations in kindergarten. They don't need to be learning that maybe they're trans, grade 1 or 2. This is just total nonsense. Leave these kids alone. Let them grow up. Stop telling them that they're born in the wrong body.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chris, sir,
Viva.
we meet in person. How you doing?
Get you.
Don't worry.
There's a little bit of obstruction here today.
Chris, so word on the street is that there was something of an altercation. They said Chris is in trouble. What happened? Anything out of the ordinary?
So police wouldn't let me walk.
He's like, just another one of these fucking hosers, Viva, trying to fuck up my suit. But don't worry, buddy. I got it double starched.
Walk on the road. Some police. Most police are great. And I also couldn't walk on the sidewalk because people were blocking me. So I had nowhere to go. And the cops telling me go around them. Well, if I go around them, they all move. This guy right here with the big pink flag, Antifa, all wearing black bloc.
With an umbrella. I said they're either very pessimistic, they think it's going to rain, or they're very optimistic and think it's going to be so sunny.
Hit me with their umbrella or something. But I just, basically, I let them block me. I've got a lot of supporters here today, maybe 100 or 200 supporters. And so sometimes people are forming human shields, but I don't want people getting violent. So if we're getting stopped, you know what? I'm already accomplishing my goal today, which is to start millions of conversations across the planet. That's for sure happening. The only thing that could ruin this is if people get violent. So I just want everyone to stay as peaceful as possible.
What was the ultimate ideal goal? Where was the march supposed to go to?
Up and down the street. And I've been up and down the street a few times. There's 3 schools within a block of each other. And I was here a year and a half ago on my own in the morning. I had 2 other people with me in the afternoon. And on that day, I got mobbed by 200 counter-protesters. I got punched twice in the head, spat on, had my signs painted on, had my signs destroyed, and my car keyed. So I'm a very stubborn old guy. And when people tell me I can't go somewhere and have conversations, it's always a guarantee I'm going to come back to that exact location. So that's why.
Based. Good for this guy. Good for him. You know, having to put up with that shit and then still coming back every time, getting more popular, bringing his own shock troopers. Hagbert says Antifa doesn't exist. Spooky stuff. Yet they're like, but they show up everywhere. No, man, it's just an idea, dude. It's just an idea. Traveling says if they do, they're on the street. Oh, I'm sorry. They're told from the top to specifically not look into the parents or do any investigation whatsoever. If they do, they're on the street and the funding for the media outlet dries right up. Yeah, because they'll be attacked. They'll be attacked. They'll go after their sponsors, etc. That's why it's so comical. Like any of these like progressive people getting their panties in a bunch over like fucking Bud Light and Target boycotts. They do this shit all the time. They always go after advertisers. They always go after people's like livelihoods and shit like that. And it's so telling. It is so telling that these fucking activists, Antifa, whatever, that they all align with like corporate America, corporate interests. They're always there to protect Disney or Target or Bud or Anheuser-Busch. Like, what the fuck are we taking crazy pills?
If we were to use a Hollywood term, we'd say shots fired, shots fired.
Shots fired, dude.
Why I'm here again.
And I was wondering about the location because it seems residential. There's a bunch of flags on the houses we could see behind us, but there's 3 schools in the area, and this is something. I had a discussion with someone who seems to think, who is of the opinion that this is about targeting adults for what they want to do, go home, that the child aspect does not leave irreparable harm, and to the extent that it does, it's necessary because suicide is the only alternative. What is the counter to that?
Yeah, the number one argument these trans activists always say in every single conversation is that, oh my gosh, if we don't transition children, they're going to kill themselves. They have absolutely no evidence to support this. This is a
Yeah, he's right, because when they cite those statistics, they're actually talking about adults. Trembling says, I don't even mean because of backlash. I mean, the actual companies that own these media outlets want this shit pushed. It's not even a conspiracy theory. It's outright fact. Yes, Actually, we're gonna cover that. We're gonna cover it on a coming night, maybe next week. Yeah, it's DEI and mixed in with the ESG scores and stuff like that. But it's these DEI agencies that these companies hire to come in and completely shift the culture. Recommend people to be hired, so they get their friends hired at these corporations that have their same ideological perspective, and so on and so forth. Because they're like consulting firms. There's DEI consulting firms. Not many companies have like a DEI office. They outsource that stuff most of the time. I have a friend. I have a secret friend who actually does this for a living. And yeah, some interesting conversations I've had.
Coercive tactic in order to silence conversation. Because to the average person who doesn't know anything about the subject, well, gee, no one wants kids to die. This is just a way to silence conversation. And it's also a way to coerce parents to go along with medicalizing their kids. Because these parents take their kids who are struggling with a variety of mental health comorbidities. There might have been trauma or abuse. There might have been sexual abuse. That's very common. And these kids go to these gender clinics. And these gender clinicians now are telling parents, you've got two options, mom and dad. You can have a dead son or a live daughter. And for people who don't know,
not only do gender clinicians do this, their talking points are repeated by people like Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart did this to somebody. What, isn't that in Tennessee? When he went to go talk to the governor or senator from, I can't remember the person's name. Can't remember. But he went to go talk, and he completely like disingenuously scumfucked the conversation. And that was one of the things he said. If I have to choose between my son becoming a woman or my son dead, I'm going to let them become a woman. Who are you to stop that?
Know anything about this. They're talking to doctors who are supposed to be authority figures on this. They don't realize they're actually talking to cult members who work inside these gender clinics. And so they go along with it. But there's no evidence to support this at all. The only studies that have ever been done into suicides have been done on the adult population. And the best studies we have show that about 10 years after sex reassignment surgery with adults, suicides peak, and they're 19.1 times higher than their peers after accounting.
Yeah, because a lot of the reporting, when they report the numbers about people being happy with their transition surgery, they don't go past 18 months. So 18 months past getting transition surgery, whatever, bottom or top surgery, then they go and they kind of do a census thing. They ask them questions. They say like, oh, because it's all self-reporting. And they're just like, oh, how do you feel? Are you happy with your decision? But at that time, they still are. Or maybe they're politically fucked or aligned or ideologically possessed. And they're just like, of course, this fixed everything. This fixed everything, Mom. Trumling says, it all leads to a place, probably in Switzerland, where a man with golden eyes that smells like brimstone sits in a darkened room. Whitney Cummings put her mark in his book.
For similar mental health comorbidities. So there's no evidence at all. All the evidence points to more suicides, which, guess what? Not complicated to understand. Sterilize a kid, cut off their body parts, destroy their chance of having a family. They're going to be more depressed long term. Turn them into a lifelong pharmaceutical patient. Probably not the best idea when you have a perfectly healthy child.
Chris, thank you very much. I'm going to stay live the whole time, so I won't monopolize your time, but thank you very much. My pleasure. All right, now it just got very quiet for some bizarre reason. I think it got quiet because I think everybody wanted to hear Chris for that moment in time. All right, so now I
spotted the kid. Let's go ahead a little bit. Okay, that's when the kid's on camera now.
Okay, came back to see what's going on in the homeland. Okay, so now seeing this behind me, we got the protest going on here. Billboard Chris is remaining here. How's it going? I think I'll be able to get a conversation. Let me see something. Okay, we got Karima back in the house. Chris doing the interviews. How's it going?
Where's this kid?
Who he associates with. He goes with people like Tucker Carlson.
Specifically with this is good.
So
they give an interview. Not you guys, the people behind you. What are you doing? You want to talk? You hesitate. It's on the internet. It never goes away.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
I don't know how many people are watching your live stream.
Oh, there's probably going to be a lot by the end of the day. What brought you here, if I may?
It's like, I don't know how many people here are watching this. Oh, I don't know, probably a few 100,000.
Ask.
Yeah, well, I disagree with Billboard Chris's political views, so I came here. It's also just really interesting to witness this. Yeah.
This is good. Okay, so hold on. I'm going to hear this now. What do you disagree specifically with Billboard Chris about?
I disagree with who he associates with. He goes with people like Tucker Carlson. He obviously uses we're going to use conversation.
See, these fucking talking points, they all have it. It's all guilt by association. He goes on Tucker Carlson and he has these talking points that are given to him by these right-wing hate groups.
As really
They offer no counter arguments. They don't argue anything. Nothing of substance. They never do. They'll just try to drown you out while you're talking.
Oh, sorry, that's going on. As a dog whistle, I think, because he brings up faulty statistics. He doesn't really seem to be talking to people. He had actually a debate scheduled with a left-wing political streamer, then he ended up canceling it.
Did it get canceled because of threats of violence?
I don't know.
Okay, now hold on a second. Let's just back it up and go one by one. Without getting into who he associates with, specifically, let's just take one issue at a time. What do you disagree with that Chris says?
Sure. For example, when he wears an outfit that is like the definition of, so I keep bumping into the definition of like blank, then like blank, it's very clearly trying to show, oh, trans women are women. Like that's the joke, right? And I think that's just really reductive. Like he clearly doesn't care. That's not any conversation. It's just bigotry, really. And I don't think that's good.
It's just bigotry. So if you have dictionary definitions of what a man and a woman are, and you have it on a t-shirt or a sandwich board outfit, then that's hate speech, dude. It's not tolerated, not here in Canada. Trembling says, talking points truly are something they fear.
Now I'm going to ask you this. You're clearly a biological male. Do you understand a woman who might say that as a biological male, to say that another biological male who identifies as being female becomes female, how that could be erasure for the woman?
I don't think many people, well, that's why we differentiate sex and gender, right?
Okay. But then when you say a trans woman is a woman, you're confusing sex and gender.
No, because a woman is about, usually when people use the word woman, it's about gender, whereas, yeah.
If I were to posit that no one ever uses the word woman as gender but only as sex, would we then concede, if we give it another name, a trans woman, let's say like civil union versus marriage for the marriage debate of gay rights? Some people said, I don't want to call it marriage, I'll call it civil union. If we say we'll call men who identify as women as something else, a respectful word, but not women, would you concede that that would be a decent middle ground in the debate? No. Then what does a woman mean?
I think that
I feel like Matt Walsh all of a sudden, but what does a woman mean? Seriously.
Well, I think that woman, like any category, it's very complicated. Like if you were to define a chair or something, you wouldn't be able to find a rigid definition that matches everything you want to associate with.
You wouldn't be able to find a rigid definition of a chair.
I would say a flat board with legs to support it. Now, something might not be a chair but could be used as a chair, but I would define a chair as something on legs that has a flat base that you could sit on.
Something that has legs?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think that it's something, yeah, that's a table.
And you could use a table as a chair.
But it's a chair. No, it isn't. Right? So the thing is that it isn't.
But you're talking about now.
It could be its size. It's the function that it serves when you consider something a chair. Trembling says, quote unquote, how dare you ask me to defend my points?
What makes something in terms of its use? So are you saying that what makes a woman is how a woman is used?
Where do you get that?
Well, you say if it has, it can be used as a chair, but it's not a chair. Therefore, there's no such thing as a chair.
Sorry, say that again.
What's the definition of a chair?
I think the definition is really complicated. I think the way definitions work is you don't have like you don't go to Oxford or Merriam-Webster and look, okay, this is the definition. You think of a series of patterns. Like you're like, okay, what's this?
See, are they just like not doing vocab in school anymore? All these things when you're learning, when you're doing vocabulary work, when you're in grade school and high school, this is what you're doing. You're learning the meanings of words, and you're referring to dictionary definitions to help guide you.
So what are the series of patterns that make a woman a woman?
I think that there's a lot of social elements to whether that is. And
so you say that women are not a biological creature, they're a series of patterns.
well, same was with a man. I think that's just everything in general. Like, that sounds optically bad. That sounds misogynistic, or it sounds misandrous going.
It does.
Yeah, it does. But I think that to say, if I was to say, oh, a woman is someone with a, like, you know,
A woman is someone with XX chromosomes who has these small gametes, if we go by a biological definition, and someone can think they look like a woman superficially, but they're not and won't be.
Yeah, so like what he's saying is, which I'm sure you all understand, is that if you just because you put on a fucking dress does not make you a woman. Just because you have surgery done doesn't make you a woman. There is something innate about femininity. Hagbard says it's all been deconstructed. You're not wrong.
Well, I disagree, because I think when we use the word, we use it in a way that doesn't really have to do with any internal, like, chromosomes, right? If you're attracted to someone, you don't think of what the chromosomes are. If you're like, oh, I'm a straight man, I like women, or whatever, or I'm a, you know, gay man and I like men, you don't think of what's on the inside. You think of who they are as a person and stuff.
No, I think of a woman that has superficially a vagina, but I do don't.
She has a vagina that works. Maybe you're attracted to them because you want to have children. Just wild, kooky stuff, you know?
That there are some medical, like intersex, I think is the one medical exception of someone with a male's penis but female chromosomes, which is like a scientific anomaly.
Well, I disagree, and that's that, really.
Okay. Awesome, thank you. I disagree, and that's that. That is that. Okay.
See, that's what's, you know, Viva's able to kind of, you know, hide his power level a little. That I'm surprised that kid didn't know who he was, just because he's kind of famous in Canada, but he's a lawyer. So he's able to kind of navigate these kinds of conversations and try to, you know, and he's trying to be charitable in a way. He's trying to direct people to to logic, to some sort of rational perspective. And a lot of times they just won't have it. They can't really defend what they're saying. They don't really even know how to engage in the deconstruction that they are presenting. And it's pretty funny.